Hey, Will Brink here, brinkzone.com, and today I want to do a review of the Anthem STR integrated amplifier. Problem with this unit, or trying to do a review of this unit, is there's so much going on with this unit that I'm not really sure how to do the unit justice, frankly, without doing like an hour-long review, which no one wants to watch. So I'm going to try to cover the salient points of this unit. Hopefully I don't miss the important ones. I will post some details and specs underneath the video to fill in the gaps, but I really try to cover these topics pragmatically and not get too nichey. But the problem with this unit, like I say, is it has so much going on with it that it's not really that easy to review. You can't just say, I turned it on, it sounded great, and good depth and air, and the end. This is really a very unique unit, so that deserves some details. So I even made myself some notes here, so don't hold this against me. I haven't memorized all this. So basic background of the Anthem STR is that it is the flagship 2-channel integrated amplifier for Anthem. So Anthem makes STR as separates, which are more expensive. They're larger. The amplifier has quite a bit more power, and they make this integrated amplifier, which I think is really the value killer, if you will, of the line. So Anthem, of course, has been around quite a while. They're well known for their home theater, their surround sound multi-channel stuff, but they've also made great 2-channel stuff, especially on their amplifiers, for a long time. So a few years ago, they decided to, of course, step up their game and come out with a real flagship, I would say, no-holds-barred, 2-channel focused integrated amplifier. There's a lot of companies that are going back towards integrateds, making really in the higher end realm. I mean, obviously integrated receivers have been around forever, but higher end stuff from companies that are really producing higher end integrateds, people are drifting back towards them. And I happen to be one of them, or at least I decided I was going to try one and to see, what I thought. So that's overall. Let's go down the obvious stuff. Looks. Looks, I really like the industrial, clean look of this unit. And you have to give them some credit for that too, because if you've looked around at what other companies are doing, there's a big nostalgia, retro, vintage sort of thing right now that a lot of companies like Yamaha and Techniques are making these very high quality, high-end integrateds that look like they're products of the 80s. And they're really nice to look at. If you're into that, I get it. But you have to give Anthem credit for, again, not going along with the direction all the other companies are going. Now, of course, Anthem didn't have something to sort of go back to the 80s with a retro look that they may have produced, as Yamaha can do. So they may not have had that choice from that angle, but of course if they'd wanted to knock out a retro looking product to go along with everybody else's retro vintage thing, they could have done that. And instead they really went along with their own philosophy, I think their own design philosophy, and stuck to a very industrial, clean looking unit. You saw some pictures coming in when the video started. I really appreciate, like say, the volume knob, a couple of buttons on the front, and the rest is left up to the menu. And again, you have to really give them credit for this big screen they put on it. That we'll get to that in a minute. I think that really, again, makes this particular unit quite unique. So it looks wise, I mean, obviously like anything, you either like it or you don't, but I don't think anybody would not buy the unit for its looks, but I think I like it. It is, however, quite big. I mean, I'll give you this. So this is my reference unit. There's the STR in my rack, and you can see the STR is literally as big as my separate 5-channel amp and the pre-pro processor combined. And that's a Tag McLaren pre-pro multi-channel. But you can see it's a really big unit. So I don't mind it. Again, it leaves a lot of space within the box, of course, for the electronics and heat exchange and all that. And of course, if you want to have that big screen to look at, you're just going to have a fairly large unit. But that may or may not be a problem for some. You have to have the right size rack and be able to hold it. All right, connections. Connections, I'm not even going to go down, again, the list of connections. We'll put them on the specs. The unit has a wall of connections. You will not be left for connections, regardless of what digital inputs, what optical inputs you want to put into USB, balanced inputs, RCAs, it goes on and on and on. The unit will not leave anybody wanting for inputs that I could see. My inputs are actually pretty straightforward. They're just RCA from my streamer and digital out. Build quality. The build quality is as you'd expect from a top tier product. It's a heavy beast. It's, I don't know, between 45 pounds would be my guess. It actually feels a little heavier just because it's so large. The build quality though, however, nowhere through the unit do you not feel like you've gotten your money's worth, or that this unit says, statement piece. So I think, again, no one's going to see it, feel it, get with it and say, I put this much money into it and it doesn't feel or look like a statement piece or a flagship piece, but it definitely does. So, sound quality. Well, all right, so this is obviously the topic most people want to hear, and it's actually the most difficult part to explain the sound quality of this unit. It is so neutral that it actually is puts you off a little bit. Now, I'll get to the good parts. So I want to say, I turned it on and right away I was hearing things I hadn't heard, and I was amazed by the depth and the range. And you know what? That actually wasn't what happened. The unit is so neutral that your initial impression, I have to say, was it actually sounded a little bit lean and maybe a little bit sterile to me. And I think that really is because, for example, my reference gear before this was Tag McLaren, which is phenomenal stuff, but it has a signature. I mean, almost everything has something of a sonic signature, whether it's warm or forward or detailed, what have you. And the STR is so lacking in a signature that your initial impression is actually, like I say, it sounds a little lean. You're sort of like, I don't know if this is really involving me. I'm not really getting that grabbed, if that makes sense. So what happens is, but now if you give it time, and you spend a little time with this thing, and you start putting on different tracks, you'll put on a track and you'll say, sounds good, of course, it's clear, but it doesn't, it's not grabbing me. I'm not hearing things that I thought I'd be hearing. Then you put on another track, and there it is. Everything you expect to hear is there, and then some. And in a clarity and a depth and air, I'm going to use some of these, what some people might consider some annoying terminology from audiophiles, but they do kind of explain what we're talking about. So when you start going through tracks and you really start getting into your collection, you start to realize that the Anthem, if it's in the music, you'll hear it. If it's not in the music, it doesn't add it. And that takes a little while to get used to be honest with you. It's a level of neutrality that I don't think I've ever heard, and it takes a little getting used to. Once you really start to appreciate what the Anthem is capable of, it takes on a whole new life of its own. And the best analogy I could give you guys listening to this is, you ever get like an LP or a CD, and you take it home and you listen to it and you just love it right from the start, and but within, I don't know, a few weeks or whatever, it's already sort of out of your rotation. It was big high, you loved it, and within a pretty short time you're sort of already moved on to other stuff. And then you'll go buy an LP or a CD that you like, and however, the more times you listen to it, the more you like it. And it then over time becomes literally like one of your favorite CDs or your all-time favorite CD, and is in the rotation for years. Like, you'll always go back to it. That is the analogy that I could use the STR compared to some other gear that I've had or that you might experience. And I've had a few people who said, I went to the music store and I listened to it and I liked it, but it sounded a little lean. And I can totally see it. You definitely would have to live with the STR to really understand what I'm talking about, or understand the raves that it gets when you look in the reviews in the magazines. It just requires that. And we haven't even gotten to the good part, the part that drew me mostly to the STR. Now, I was looking to go towards a good integrated, a really solid quality integrated, and I had, like everybody else, driving myself a little crazy with the research. But what kept bringing me back to the STR was their ARC, their Genesis ARC, their automatic room correction software, which Anthem has been at for, well, I don't know, 20 years. I mean, they've been in that realm, and perfecting that technology as long as just about anybody. And they've applied it to their home theater stuff as other companies have, but now they've taken the ARC software, the ARC technology, and applied it to a very high-end 2-channel product. And what that allows you to do, I mean, one of the biggest issues by far in quality music is the room. The room acoustics are half the battle. I mean, some people would say more, some people would say less, but room acoustics, no amount of speaker placement, gear you buy, moving things around, if you don't have good room acoustics, you're just not going to get what you want from it. And it's an ongoing battle. I mean, we only, unless we have a private room to ourselves that we built with all this room, bass traps and room acoustics and all that, most of us have to suffer with what we have to suffer with. We have to live with what we have, and whether, you also have a significant other factor. I mean, they don't want to see, a bunch of egg crates on the walls and stuff like that. So the ARC system basically takes care of the room acoustics. And I listened to it intentionally. I listened to the SDR for about 2 weeks without it, because I really wanted to get a sense of the before and the after effects of the room acoustic treatment, the ARC. And I think some people make a mistake maybe of immediately setting up the unit or and getting right into that ARC and going right from there. And I really wanted to give it a couple of weeks. So I listened to it for a couple of weeks. Those were my impressions, which were good. But it took me, like I say, a little while to really get into this unit and really understand what it was capable of. The ARC is really, I want to say, incredible. The ARC system, once you get that going, and it flattens out the room, flattens out the bass, not just the bass. The bass is the big one, but it obviously definitely improves the mid-range, and it even gives you a PDF printout of what your problem in your room was, and then how it flattened it out for you. And you get this little sheet you can look at. The entire unit, I'm leaving things out. This unit is one of the most functional, adjustable things I've ever seen. And I'm leaving out pages and pages of stuff. If you're the kind of person who really just wants a simple unit, just sort of plug and play, you can do it with this unit, but you're really wasting its potential. I mean, if all you want is a unit that plugs and plays, and you want to spend a fair amount of money on a really good integrated, maybe not be the best choice. Not that you can't do it. It'll allow, it has presets and you can do it, but you're really losing the potential of this unit if you don't use it to its fullest advantage. And that actually is pretty considerable and really impressive. So without the ARC, it sounded good. It took me a while to get into it and really appreciate the neutrality, that the fact that it just does not have a signature. You're looking for a signature, and again, and signatures are not, or signature sound is not necessarily a negative in things. Some people just like a certain sound. You're not going to get it with this. So take that as a plus, take it as a minus, whatever you want. But if it's in the music, you'll hear it, or if it's in the recording or the master recording, remember all the sources, everything. If it's not in the music, you're not going to hear it. It's not going to put that in there for you. Again, take that as a negative or a positive. So back to the ARC. The benefit of the ARC obviously is going to depend on how the acoustics of your room. Obviously, the closer you are to flat, the less you're going to notice it. The farther away you are from flat, the better you're going to get from it. I would say I was somewhere in the middle. I had a decent amount of padding, and I tried to move things around and had some pillows and really did my best, but it's not a big space. I don't have a lot of things I can do with the sort of shared living room thing that SO was going to put up with. So for me, the effect was really pretty profound, and the bass got tighter. More surprising to me was the mid-range became rounder and fuller and more forward. If I was to give the STR any signature, I would say it's a bit mid-range forward, which sounds really nice. Again, a lot of units aren't. If I was to say anything at all, if I was to identify a signature, I'd say it's a bit mid-range forward. So, but with the ARC, when you turn the ARC on, you sit there and it comes with a whole bunch of extras. It comes with a microphone and a stand, and you've got to hook it up to your laptop, and it puts out a bunch of test tones and gives you a little, it adjusts automatically to the room, and it is absolutely phenomenal. I've always thought, I've been looking at or paying attention to this type of technology for some years now. I think it is the technology of the future, and will be seen in more units as time goes on, but as you'd expect, it's going to sort of trickle down probably from more of the flagship level stuff, and maybe someday. But I tend to think, like a lot of things, it's going to probably be in just about everything. You know, I don't know, whatever, 5 years, 2, 5, 10 years, depending on. But again, it is proprietary stuff, and the companies that have put a lot of effort and engineering and time to it are going to be better at it. So, so for me, when I was looking into what I wanted to pay, and we'll get into that in a minute, value, I mean, power-wise, I like power. All things being equal, power sounds better to me. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not going to run, you know, inefficient speakers, you know, 85, 86 dB efficient speakers, you know, with 50 watts or 75 watts. I don't care how much reserve they have. I like power, all things being equal. And the STR, there's going to be very few speakers on the market that will not sound great with the level of power the STR puts out, which is 200 into 8, 400 into 4, and I believe 550 into 2. So, and if you look in the, you know, if you look in the box, there's a big giant toroidal transformer in there, as you'd expect. And I feel like I'm not even, you know, even touching the surface of this unit right now. I really do. I don't want to go on and on because nobody wants to spend 45 minutes listening to me. But I really feel, like I said, I haven't even touched the surface of what this unit can do, the configurations it can give you. So I would actually say I'd give it a, you know, I'd have to give it an A+. Now let's talk cost. It's about $4,500. So at $4,500, this is certainly not a budget or an introduction unit. This is, you know, definitely a, I would say, upper mid-5 priced unit. However, if you're talking about getting into high end, I mean, this would be introductory price, you know, when you're getting, this is probably the low end of high end and the very upper end of, you know, mid-fi, where there's not a line, but it definitely blurs the line between high end, high mid-fi and low end hi-fi, if that makes any sense. So price-wise, however, I mean, is it competitive? When you look at what, say, Yamaha is charging for some of their, or Luxman, or, you know, what have you, are charging for some of their higher end or even mid-end integrated, it's a bargain. When you see what it can do configuration-wise, how it sounds, you get the arc and all that, it's a bargain. So as everything is relative, especially when it comes to audio, I think for the typical of Anthem, I have to say, Anthem has always been a value company. I've owned other Anthem products. You know, Anthem is always on my short list when I'm looking again for value, for quality, for sonics and all that. Anthem is always on the short list. So I have to say, some people might consider that too much. Some people might consider it, like I say, as I do, frankly, I consider it a bargain for what I wanted audio-wise, and that I wanted the ARC system to take care of my room acoustics. And I think that's about it. If you have questions, comments, you know, leave them below. Please join up and hit the likes, usual advice, and see you all on the Bring Zone.